We got this from the Daily Beast. Georgia governor activates 1,000 National Guard troops amid Cop City protest. I just really love how everybody is framing this. This is not a protest. This is domestic terrorists who have been charged with domestic terrorism, who shot a cop and put him in the hospital while trying to seize territory. These are individuals who crossed state lines with semi-automatic weapons. They did.
Yeah.
That's right. I mean, that's the most shocking part of it. And then when the cops, they firebombed houses. They firebombed...
Houses?
Houses.
Yeah.
Under construction houses, to make sure the context is clear. They were building houses. They came in and they torched them. A guy was driving his truck. They firebombed it. He fled. They flipped his truck over. These are dangerous, violent, psychopathic terrorists.
Gunfights.
Gunfights with police.
Yeah.
And then when the police went and moved in and this guy shot a cop, put him in the hospital, severe injury, not critical, severe. They shot back, killed the guy. You get leftist media saying, oh, the police killed this guy. You get the activists coming out. Then the activists call for the assassination of cops. Now in Atlanta, they are deploying they're activating 1,000 National Guard. Brian Kemp is declaring a 15-day state of emergency in Georgia amid the civil unrest. 1,000 National Guard troops are being activated. I guess my question is this. I got a couple questions, actually. Is this the beginning of a new summer of love? Is this stuff gonna continually get worse, do you guys think? And what should be done about it?
It'll keep getting worse if we don't take the action that Brian Kemp and then the Atlanta police are taking right now. So as somebody from the Pacific Northwest who had their communities absolutely ravaged by Antifa, big time kudos to Georgia for not putting up with this crap and actually taking measures to prevent it from spreading. Because in 2020, we did, unfortunately, our government in Seattle and in Portland, they just let it go. And it's continued to this day. And here we are in 2023. So I hope they continue to really crack down on these guys, charge them with domestic terrorism charges.
I agree. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the militarization of the police and stuff. But if you have armed groups that are causing that kind of chaos and mayhem, you're going to have a serious problem with your society. Like Atlanta is going to have a mess until those people get clean, until they clean up the situation. And that if that means that you have to start throwing people in jail, you have to, because they're ignoring the rights of the other people in Atlanta. The problem isn't, the problem isn't that the Atlanta police are heavy-handed or whatever. The problem is that there are actual anarchists and communists looking to start a revolution in Atlanta right now. And there's no two ways about it. If you talk to them, they call themselves revolutionaries. If you talk to them, they will say that, that they are looking to engage the cops. Give them the fight they want.
Yeah. Joe, did you ever get an sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask if you ever got an explanation from y'all's government over why they didn't do more, why the inaction was, status quo.
No, we got basically nothing but gaslighting. I mean, they'll tell us that, hey, there was protesters, and the elected officials down in Portland and Seattle would even go as far as to say, this is just peaceful protests. All the cliches of Summer of Love that came from Seattle, that came from the Jazz. I mean, up until they showed up in her neighborhood, then she called the cops and she wanted them the heck out of there. Yeah. But no, there's still no accountability. Yeah, that was hilarious. I mean, and these guys, they didn't just trash Portland and Seattle. They came into even some of the rural districts because they were emboldened, because no one was stopping them. Yeah. We needed the government to step in, and they didn't. So good on Georgia.
The communists want a revolution. Give them the fight they want. They're literally looking to fight the government. Government, go give them the fight.
Well, arrest them, lock them up, and stop the fight.
Well, that's what's going to happen. I mean, you're basically going to stomp a mud hole in their butt.
The problem is, it's not stopping.
Because the government's not doing anything.
Right, but when the cops did go to try and confront this is what happens when you ignore the problem.
Yeah.
The police went to confront a bunch of far leftists who came cross state lines with weapons, with semi-automatic weapons and rifles, and they shot a cop.
Yeah.
The cop was in severe condition, was brought to the hospital, had to get surgery. They returned fire in self-defense, killing one of these guys. If they had just arrested them. But the problem is, I think there's two things. You've got Democrats who are unwilling to confront the left wing of their own party because it empowers them. And then you've got members of the Democratic Party who agree with them.
Yeah.
So, you guys, I hope you have your whiskey ready or whatever it is you drink, because Civil War? Look, I've talked about it quite a bit. I don't know exactly what shape or whatever will happen, how it's going to happen. But we're at the point now where it's 2023 and we're hearing that not only have we graduated from Antifa sitting in the street, taking over street corners, we now have people traveling from across the country to seize parts of big portions of land, shooting at cops, firebombing the city, calling for assassinations, and being charged with domestic terrorism.
Yeah.
We are now out of the territory of Antifa threw a milkshake, and we are now in the territory of Antifa is coalescing, shooting at cops, firebombing buildings, again, and being charged with domestic terrorism. The escalation is happening.
Yeah.
Will it be isolated to Atlanta, or is this summer going to be another summer of love?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that answer is really up to Antifa.
Yeah.
I mean, because we've given them all the initiative. I hope they keep doing what they're doing in Georgia. So maybe they'll move out of the South and come back to the Pacific Northwest, unfortunately, or New York City. But until these guys are actually targeted, and the crazy thing is, the federal government, as opposed to chasing down every single grandmother who was anywhere near the Capitol on January 6th, or going after parents that show up at school board meetings, maybe they should be going after the people that are killing people on our streets and burning down our entire cities. Like, use the FBI for that.
We talked about this a few days ago when the Mike Pence story happened, where they find documents in his house or whatever. And I'm like, what if we're dealing with a tit for tat? What if we're dealing with a fractured DOJ, where, of course, like you're talking about the CIA, but not every single person in the CIA is woke. Right. And not every single person in the CIA agrees with you on the Constitution or is anti-woke. Right. You're going to have a mix. I've talked to people who worked in intelligence. I get emails from them. I get messages, and they say, like, listen, it's the same in here as it is out there.
Yeah.
There's some woke people, there's some not woke people. Most people don't care, don't want to be involved, but the woke people speak up, they get passes.
Yep.
So I'm wondering if the DOJ goes after Trump then his house raided, so you'll get some element of the FBI getting angry and saying, I'm sick of this, and then finally putting their foot down and saying, we're going after Joe Biden. All of a sudden, Joe Biden's lawyers are like, yep, yeah, we have him, here, take him, we're cooperating. And then the anti-Trump, Republican faction says, oh yeah, you go after Biden, we're going to go after Pence. And then Pence's people are like, yep, we found these documents. I'm wondering if, the question is, why are they going after everybody? And is it possibly a tit for tat where we're seeing different factions within the executive branch just targeting their political enemies?
Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility. I think this could just be one big administrative state flex for them to say, hey, we've got dirt on all of you guys, and at any point in time, we're going to find something, that whole, show me the man, I'll show you the crime. Mm-hmm. I feel like a lot of that's going on right now, because this is a very big power play if you're the administrative state within the course of 2 weeks to say, hey, Republican and Democrat, maybe you guys had ambitions for 2024. We just found some paperwork that's not straight.
That's a good point. It may be an attempt to regain control of the system. A hard whip crack to both parties. We own you.
Yeah, and Biden's been compromised 6 ways to Sunday by so many different entities that whoever installed him and propped him up and got him into office, whichever pathway you believe that took place, Biden was definitely propped up. They've got so much dirt on this guy that it was just a matter of them deciding when. It's like, oh, is it going to be the classified documents, Burisma, whatever?
Yeah, but it seems like they could just tell him. It seems like they'd be like, Joe, have a nice retirement, and he'd be like, okay.
Yeah, I feel like he doesn't want to. I mean, he kept saying before, like around Christmas, he was like, oh, well, I'll make a decision. I'll make an announcement about 2024 in January, and we're all going to think about it. And then 2 days later, he kept saying, people were like, oh, maybe Jill doesn't want him to run. And then 2 days later, it was like, oh, no, Jill definitely wants him to run. I mean, they didn't release his annual physical. Like, they have been super cagey about him this whole time, and he has been insistent that he will run again. Yeah. So I think Joe is not as submissive as they would like him to be. Yeah. But he's not in good shape.
No, he's not. I mean, and that's the thing, that he's been compromised. He went through all this risk to be compromised. Now he's finally got what he wanted. I don't think he's going to get enough of a fight, and he's got people around him that benefit from him being there. So I do think there's going to be some behind the scenes fighting there.
So who do you think they want instead?
I think that you're kind of at a point where if you're not vindicated now about the whole Civil War stuff, I don't see. I mean, it would have to be. What was that?
I said, I don't know. I could be wrong. I was just.
Well, I mean, it's kind of already going on.
Well, that's kind of what I've been saying. And the point I often bring up is like, guys, I'm just reading these news articles about national security assessments. Like, my opinion on this is rooted in reading a bunch of news stories that say national security experts. Well, I mean, what did you have? You're like a former CIA analyst, wrote a book saying we're entering the second phase, which brings us into civil war. And I'm like, okay, maybe, I guess. Buy chickens. You got chickens?
Yeah, we got chickens. Yeah, we got.
Gotta have chickens.
Yeah.
Yeah, eggs now are so expensive.
Yeah.
And it's become a crazy issue, but it's funny because, like, I'm not going to tell you why eggs are expensive. Like, I'm just going to say you need to have chickens because you need to be self-sufficient. But if you really want to know, a bird flu hit chickens, and then they started culling chickens.
Yep.
So a lot of people, I had someone say to me, you're lying about the inflation in eggs. You're blaming Joe Biden when it was a bird flu that killed all these chickens. And I'm like, I never said any of that. But it wasn't the bird flu that killed the chickens. It was orders by the government to kill all your chickens. Mm-hmm. So apparently they were instructing people to cull their flocks because of fear of the flu, and they're trying to slow it down.
Right.
We got a backyard flock. They're fairly isolated. We haven't got to worry about chicken diseases or anything like that.
They're not going to chicken school. They're not catching other viruses.
They're locked down.
Yeah, they're locked down. They're wrapped up. But that being said, considering everything that's going on, there was a story I was reading the other day about some 23-year-old woman from, I think, Seattle. She leaves the city, buys a farm in the middle of nowhere, and is now prepping. And it's just like, when you get a 23-year-old like TikTok influencer, like urban woman who's decided this is the path for her, it kind of says a lot, because it used to be if you were a prepper, they mocked you.
Right.
Now it's the cool thing to do, to go on TikTok and be like, yeah, I'm prepping.
Yeah, nobody makes fun of preppers anymore.
Yeah.
No.
Well, the preppers are the ones sitting back with the whiskey and the cigar laughing at us saying, I ain't got anything to worry about.
The preppers are the ones that were like, when COVID hit off, we were just like, okay, all right, what now? Because everything, I didn't have to run to the store.
But that's just overtly true. I was at a gas station in like Arizona or something during the lockdowns, and this lady, I asked her, because like the gas station was open, everything seemed to be fine, nobody was wearing masks, and I was like, this is interesting. And then I asked her, I was like, have you guys noticed anything about like with the lockdowns? She's like, oh, we're preppers, we don't care. And I was like, really? She goes, we got 3 months worth of toilet paper, we're not worried about toilet paper. I started laughing, and then she like looks at her husband, and she's like, right, and he's like, we got everything.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. Like, these people literally don't care what's going on. They're probably laughing all the way to the toilet paper closet.
The Fortress of Solitude in New Hampshire, dude, I was fine. I didn't have to worry about it.
Can I just mention how crazy that, like, everybody knows how crazy that was, but let's just bring it up again. Those videos of people fighting over toilet paper. Man.
It was wild.
Yeah.
Absolutely wild.
I think a trip to Seattle would probably make most people want to go prep. I mean, if you're prep skeptical, like, just go to Seattle, maybe downtown Portland, and you'll know why.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.